Good morning, guys. Welcome to our last week of learning online. It's been a tremendous voyage and you've all done a very good job. So you should all be very proud of yourselves. We're going to do this week a practice of a traditional story because when we get back to school next week, we are going to do our own traditional story just to see where you guys are at. Okay? It's not going to be weighted too heavily because of what's been happening. It would be pretty unfair if we let that determine your year 4 grade. So we're not going to do that. But we are going to use it as a guide to let us know where you're sort of at with your writing so far this year. So there's a couple of instructions below to 3 stories that we've introductions. So can you read those introductions to those 3 stories we've covered? Off you go. Next, I want you to record the setting and the characters for each of those stories. Okay, off you go. Now watch closely to the video that I'm about to play, which is all about introductions.
In this video, we are going to look at how to write an introduction for a traditional story. In every introduction to a traditional story, the storyteller tries to introduce the time, place, and characters of the story. An introduction can sound much more interesting simply by adding some of the following: time words, noun groups, clauses, and prepositional phrases. Let's have a look at an example. A lion and a rabbit lived in a wood. Does this introduction grab your interest? Is it engaging? We can tell the setting. It's in a wood. And the characters are the lion and a rabbit. But how can we make it more interesting? What are some language features which would add details and interest to the setting, and characters, and details about time? Let's add some details about the lion. Firstly, let's put in when it happened. It was long, long ago. These are time words. They're also called text connectives. Remember, they glue the story together and they add sequence to the story. We could add some noun groups, such as magnificent old lion. It sounds much better than just the word lion. And we could give him a name, Leo, which is another noun. We could also put in a prepositional phrase which will give some detail about the place. Instead of just being in a wood, it's a large wood at the edge of a forest. Now, let's add some detail about the rabbit. He's going to be a poor, tiny rabbit. That's a good noun group, and we're going to put in a clause to give some information. Who lived at the other end of the wood. Avoided him at all costs. There's a pronoun in there too, so avoiding the lion at all costs. Now, let's put it together and see how it sounds. Long, long ago, there lived a magnificent old lion, named Leo, who ruled a large wood at the edge of a forest. A poor tiny rabbit, who lived at the other end of the wood, avoided him at all costs. Ah, that introduction sounds much better.
Now I want you to think about which language feature you think added the most interest to the final introduction in this presentation. So was it noun groups that made them interesting? Was it verb groups? Have a think. Now you're going to generate some ideas about expanding your introduction. So we expand our introductions by adding in noun groups and verb groups to give more description. So you're going to think of some new ideas to create a new introduction based on the sentence above, which is a crocodile and a cat met at a river. So that's what your traditional story is going to be based on. So write time words that you could add to this sentence. Refer to the time words on sheet 2, which looks like this. So the time words are down here. Words that show a time or an order. So long, long ago, okay? Or long ago in the dream time, or once upon a time. Those are our time words. So you need to choose one of those time words and then complete the sentence above in that box there. Off you go. So you might have written, long, long ago, a crocodile and a cat met at the river. So we've expanded that sentence now. Let's expand it even more. Where could this story be set? Refer to some of the ideas for setting, which could be sorry guys, I haven't got my glasses today, so it's a bit tricky. But use some ideas from this poster. I think it can be any ideas, folk tales from Asia, it could be indigenous Dreamtime stories, anything you want. Think of a setting and then add it to that sentence here and write it down there. Off you go. So your sentence could have been, long, long ago, a crocodile and a cat met at the ancient river in the desert. Okay? Something like that. So you're just giving a bit more information. So now you've got your sentences, or you've got your sentence, you've got to give these characters a name. So you've got to give a name to the crocodile and the cat. I want you to give it a name based on the type of story it is. If it's a fairy tale, they're going to have mythical type names. If it's a folk tale, you might look up some names from Indonesia or China. If it is a Dreamtime story, okay, you could use lots of different names. They're all around us, okay? Lots of place names in Australia are derived from Indigenous words. So we've got some words here, okay, which I can't see. But you are going to create names based on those characters. Off you go. Next, think of some noun groups that could be used to describe the crocodile and the cat, okay? So, the fierce, ferocious crocodile, the scrawny cat. So think of some noun groups to describe your characters. Now list some pronouns you could use for the crocodile. Is it a he or a she? Is the cat a he or a she? Off you go. So you're starting to get a bit of an image and a bit of a story going in your head now that you've been thinking of these things like setting and noun groups, because that's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to get as much of the story and the image in our head as possible. Now, you've got to use these instructions to write your own introduction on sheet 9. So take all of the information you've started, go to this sheet, which is sheet 9, and write an introduction based on the sentence below that you then expanded on. So I would take this sentence that you first wrote, which is here in B, I'll take that sentence and copy it there. Then you need to add details such as the names, okay? So introduce your characters, okay? Introduced some of the time words and the noun groups which we would have put in that other sentence. So you can use that sentence there. Then you can introduce your characters by their name, okay? And you're going to write a few sentences. Doesn't have to be too long. Like these were only 3 sentences, 4 sentences. It's about 3 or 4 sentences of introducing your story. Then, if you don't have enough space on those lines, you can write in the box too. Then underneath, you need to draw a picture and you can color that picture in for your illustration, okay? So using this information that you wrote out here, okay, you're going to create an introduction on this sheet here. Okay, good luck, guys. I can't wait to see how these all look. All right, and I believe once you've done your introduction, you just need to go through a bit of a checklist here. Okay, so this is a bit of a checklist. Did your introduction include a time, setting, and characters? Do you think these help understand the story, etc., etc.? Okay, So if you haven't listed any language features, you'd go back and you'd add them in, and then you'd list them there. You don't have to do D, but E definitely. E is what E wants you to edit. So once this is done, I'm not worried too much about this. I'm worried more about this. Once this is done, go through and edit it, okay? And then that's basically it. All right. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in math. Bye-bye.